7.
That's very nice.
That's a hell of a season, actually. That's not a whole lot that a guy who threw for 4,000 yards could do in a year, except get you in a position to win 7 times in the fourth quarter, and your defense give it up, which, by the way, prompted a complete firing of every staff member on defense and an entirely new system installed this year. I would say the biggest problem was the defense and not who the quarterback was in 2008.
And that is just after Tampa Bay.
The Pittsburgh Steelers on offense this year that took them from a Super Bowl victory last season to not even making the playoffs this year.
What was that?
I said, ask Sue what the difference was between the same quarterback that the Pittsburgh Steelers had last year, the Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers were last year, that led them to not even making the playoffs this year.
Well, that's not what we're about. We're about one player. The difference between the Packers and the Vikings, and they're in the championship game, and we were 2 years ago with the difference of one player. You think that's a sound decision?
But
I don't.
Change from this year to last year.
Let me ask you a question, Sue. Last year, we didn't beat the Minnesota Vikings twice. The Minnesota Vikings were NFC North Division champions 2 years ago as well, without Brett Favre as the quarterback, with Gus Frerotte and Tavares Jackson, one of whom is not in the league anymore, and the other who rode the pine all year. And those guys also beat the Green Bay Packers without Brett Favre and won the division without Brett Favre.
Right, that's right. But I'm talking about the difference between
one
the
player
Packers now
who
and
wasn't
the Packers
there.
2 years ago.
Okay,
and
2
the
years
Packers
ago, the
last
difference
year.
is 2
I mean,
wins.
You can't. That's what it's all about, you guys. It's not about.
What about that quarterback? Let me ask you this.
Going to leave? Yes, he would, and we would have. We would have had everything that went with it if these guys would have just not been so eager to worry about Aaron Rodgers at this point and get everything in their power to get Favre to leave.
Hey, Sue.
And get him out.
Hey, Sue.
That was their whole agenda.
Who was the Packers quarterback in 2005? Do you remember? 2005. Who was the Packers quarterback?
2005?
Yeah.
Well, it was Brett Favre.
They went 4-12. How did that happen?
I think you remember a guy named Mike Sherman that Ron Wolf gave the GM to Mike Holmgren.
Yeah. I do. He was also 12-4 2 years.
Yeah,
and 10
the year
and 6 2 years.
With that too,
Sue, the year before that, they were 10-6 and NFC North champs.
Don't forget where Ted Thompson comes from. The same place that Mike Holmgren was. The same place that Ron Wolf has a big problem with.
Do you think Ron Wolf did okay here in Green Bay, or did he suck too? Was Ron Wolf a crappy GM here too?
Did he suck too, Sue?
Yes.
Ron Wolf sucked. Okay.
But he brought Brett Favre to town and gave up a first-round draft pick for a guy that was...
Has there ever been anybody good in Green Bay besides Brett Favre? Anybody?
Yes, there's been a lot of good people
that
were not qualified for the job, that had the right thoughts in mind. And Mike Sherman was a great guy, but not qualified to be the GM. He was given that despite Mike Holmgren. Do you disagree with that?
No, but Mike Sherman was the biggest pom-pom waiver for Brett Favre that this organization has seen in decades.
Mike Sherman
that guy swung from his nuts
but was
better.
Not qualified to give him what he needed, and that's quite a bit.
But why is that?
That's not
Ted Thompson's fault. Ted Thompson inherited a team that you rightfully say was decimated by a general manager who was poor, who was the guy that you're now arguing didn't put enough talent around the guy.
Let's go to Joe. Joe.
It's not Ted Thompson's fault.
Go ahead, Joe.
The only thing Ron Wolf ever did was get Brett Favre.
Oh.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joey.
Yo, Joey.
Hey, I was born and raised right next to Lambeau Field. I've been watching the Packers since I was 8 years old. And let me tell you, when Ted Thompson came to town and I saw that deer in the headlights look, I thought the same thing. Who is this guy? And I was against him. But let me tell you, he's put together one of the greatest teams I've seen in a long time. And last year, our defense, from where they went from last year to this year, and I thought last year we're going to have a great defense because of the people. You can't say we wouldn't have. But I'll tell you what, the key is motivation. Positive attitude. This Susie has no positive attitude towards the Packers. Tell her to move to Minnesota and love Brett Favre for maybe a year or two, cry when he wants to retire, be happy when he comes back. I don't know what to tell you. We got a great team, and motivation in the NFL is the key.
Thank you, Joe.
Sue, I just want to give you a couple of names. When Ron Wolf was general manager here, just give me a thumbnail sketch on these guys. Sean Jones.
Sean Jones, yeah, okay.
Sucked or no?
Up.
Santana Dotson.
Santana Dotson, yes.
Keith Jackson.
Keith Jackson was a what, 1 year?
Was Keith Jackson any good the year they won the Super Bowl, or did he suck? Reggie White. Desmond Howard, Don Beebe, Robert Brooks, Antonio Freeman,
Dorsey
Levens,
Edgar Bennett, Any of them good, Sue?
Yeah, those are good.
Ron Wolf brought in every one of them.
Well, I don't agree with Ron Wolf's little problem with Mike Holmgren.
But
and
basically, though,
again,
Sue, I mean, let's just be honest, Sue. Let's just be honest.
All of his good when he does such a petty, undermined, crappy thing to our community and our franchise as give Mike
By
Sherman
retiring?
the GM because he's pissed.
Let's just be honest, though, Sue. This really is, and I'm not trying to be confrontational with you. Everything you're talking about in terms of general management and the players, you tend to side more with the players than you do the management, in the sense that you'd be a good player representative versus owner representative. You just like to go, you tend to go more with the players, right?
Wait, who is the owner of the Green Bay Packers? Isn't it I?
Well, I don't know. There are a
Season
lot of
ticket holder and a
certificates in people's
taxpayer in the
basements
county?
that don't mean crap.
I mean, it doesn't mean, but the thing that I'm getting at here is we had a thing that everybody in the NFL looked to as you guys got that guy. He is a legend, and we couldn't protect that for a couple of years, and we could have been in like the Dallas or the San Francisco era with using Brett Favre and having championship after. We could have had the greatest thing if we would have had the management in there backing him from the get-go.
Oh,
but
my
we
God.
didn't. We had a
Let's go to
bunch of-
Coco.
we had-
Let's go to Coco. Coco, go ahead.
Sorry,
Morning, boys.
Good morning, Coco.
I got one question for Sue.
Yes.
What's the difference between the Jets not making the playoffs last year and making it this year?
Okay, I'll tell you, the Jets is not a fit for Brett Favre. You knew it. He knew it.
That's
Everybody
not
knew it.
official. Well,
Ed
then
Thompson
what you're
sent him
saying
there
is
so he didn't have to
the
have what
talent
happened
around
this
him
year
matters.
happened last year, where he should have been. We could have got draft picks if we would have just released him.
Go ahead,
But he wouldn't
Coco.
do that 'cause he
If you
didn't want
just
to
if you just release him, you don't get anything.
No, you get
Then
nothing.
he goes to the Minnesota Vikings like he
Yes.
did with the Jets, who just released
We
him.
actually did get draft picks because we traded.
And with that draft pick, we got Clay Matthews Jr., who doesn't
Listen,
suck.
Yes.
what would have happened if he would have just released Brett Favre last year and let him play with the Vikings?
He would have
What
gone
would
wherever
we
he
have
wanted.
got?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that with anybody when they're under contract? It'd be unprecedented. You'd have nothing to gain. By trading him, you got a draft pick that was parlayed into getting Clay Matthews Jr., enable them to move up in the draft. I thought it was a hell of a move.
Away for nothing, Sue.
Do you guys do that at the
reason
casino?
is, and
Hey,
you know
Sue,
what,
when you're at
is
Oneida
that
Casino,
value
can I go to a
that you're not
blackjack
willing to
table
admit you're
and just
giving
have
up?
the guy? Sue, can I go to a blackjack table at Oneida Casino and have them just give me money? Would that be possible?
If you know what you're doing, I'll give you money.
Value, Sue.
Really?
We realize there may have been a year or two left in the tank. But are you going to mortgage the next 10 years for one or two?
And they didn't cut him.
possibly
He
good
said he
years
didn't
that
want to
you're-
play.
It's a crapshoot. You don't know. He could go 4-12 again, Sue. You
know
don't
what?
know.
He is so much more than your little numbers and records. You guys just don't get that.
But Sue, let me ask
all
you,
you're
Sue,
doing
Sue,
is
Sue, Sue, Sue,
looking
Sue,
at
Sue.
numbers and
Exactly. I'm
stats.
looking at wins and losses, Sue. Let me ask you a question. As a season ticket holder since all the way back, and you watched everybody come through, and the tickets were handed
And
down,
by the way,
and blah,
Sue,
blah, blah,
so
dot,
am I.
dot, dot.
I've been going to Packer games since I was 5, so.
Let me ask you a question. What would you prefer? A funsy, touchy-feely relationship with Brett Favre and a losing football season, or an 11-5 football season for your Green Bay Packers?
That is so silly. That
But
I
it's
can't
not.
even bring myself
That's
to
what the
answer. I would
numbers are,
prefer
Sue.
A community
Guys,
that
the
is
bottom line is-
Do you want lovey-dovey community in which you live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where everybody goes, look at our Brett, until the day he dies and decides to hang it up, or go out like Dan Marino and throw 9,000 picks in your final year and have one of the most humiliating playoff losses in history and limp off the field like the legend Dan Marino did in Miami? Or would you rather have 11 wins and 5 losses?
Doing that this year, and you know why? Because he's got a team that appreciates him and built around him and used his expertise, not thwarted it.
Sue, they didn't build that team around him. He went to that team because it best suited him. They didn't build the Minnesota Vikings to get Brett Favre as a quarterback. They built the Minnesota Vikings around a guy named Tavares Jackson, who they then benched for the quarterback who decided to go
I
to
don't
them.
think Brett Favre became a Viking until what,
that's
about
not the
August
question.
10th?
I believe Drew Brees could go into Minnesota and take them to the Super Bowl.
I believe Aaron Rodgers
Aaron
could.
Rodgers would take them to the
Rodgers, 'cause
Super
they
Bowl
got
in a
that good of
heartbeat.
team.
Do you think Aaron Rodgers could win with that Minnesota team?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Aaron Rodgers is a good talent.
So then it's
He
not
certainly
about the
is. That is
quarterback
not the
position. It's
question
about
here.
the team he plays
That
on.
is not the question. The
Yes, it
question is
is.
getting rid of a big money-making, franchise-saving, money-making guy. That's what it is.
I don't know.
All right,
I'm
so
play.
it's
He
been
can
good
still
talking
play.
to you. Goodbye.